I work at an ice rink. I saw something that chilled me to the bone. My name's Elena Morales. I'm 19 years old, back in my hometown for summer break after my first exhausting year of college. I needed a job. Nothing glamorous. Just something simple to earn gas money, help out with groceries, maybe even stash a little away for next semester's books. So when I saw the help wanted sign taped to the cloudy glass door of Glacier Skate Rink, I took it as fate. I mean, how hard could it be? Hand out skates, mop up melted ice, maybe wipe down a few tables. I expected competition. It's summer, after all. Everyone's looking for work. But when I walked in, the guy at the counter gave me a look like I was the only one who had applied. He didn't even glance at my resume. Just asked, "Can you work weekends?" I nodded. "Cool. You start today." Just like that. The guy's name was Hank, late 40s, maybe early 50s. Deep tan, smoker's voice, and eyes that looked like they hadn't seen sleep in a few years. He walked me through the basics, clean the bathrooms, check skate returns, help at the front if it gets busy. Oh, and one more thing. He tapped the thermostat near the back wall. It was old, boxy, yellowed with age. The numbers were faded, but still legible. "You need to check this every hour," he said. "The rink has to stay below freezing at all times. 19 to 29 degrees. No exceptions." I chuckled a little. Sure, that makes sense. It's an ice rink. But he didn't laugh. He just nodded slowly and looked past me toward the rink. "It's not just about the ice." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned away and mumbled something about getting the arcade keys. It was strange, yeah, but I let it go. Everyone's got their quirks. I figured the job would be easy. The place wasn't super busy unless the temperature outside hit triple digits, and even then, most people came in for the arcade or the snacks, not the skating. It had this weird charm to it, like stepping into the early 2000s. A little rundown. A little stuck in time. Faded posters of hockey tournaments long gone. An old popcorn machine that wheezed more than it popped. Still, I didn't mind. It was cold. That alone made it worth it. The main rink was a giant oval surrounded by scuffed plastic walls and cheap rubber mats. Bleachers lined one side, and a snack bar stood in the corner like it had been dragged out of a high school cafeteria. The air always smelled faintly of sweat, old cheese, and cleaning spray. The first few days were fine. Hank mostly kept to himself, usually either in his office or fiddling with something behind the counter. There was one other employee, Stacy, who worked the snack bar. She didn't say much to me at first, but I didn't take it personally. Honestly, I was just happy to have something that didn't involve fast food grease or retail rage. Then came the fourth day. I was running late. Nothing dramatic, just a missed bus and a slow walk from the station. When I arrived, Hank was already pacing the rink. He looked off. Sweaty. Jittery. He turned when he heard the door. "You seen anyone around?" he asked quickly. I shook my head. "No. It's still early. We don't open for another hour, right?" "Right." "Good. That's good." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then he pointed toward the back hallway. "Come on. I need help with something." We headed into the arcade, which was as dated as the rest of the rink. Pinball machines buzzed softly, and the floor was sticky with old soda. In the corner stood a massive new cabinet. It looked like it had just arrived. A racing game, probably. 2 seats. Big curved screen. Giant speakers mounted on top. It looked brand new, out of place compared to the rest of the machines. "I need to test it," Hank muttered. "Help me plug it in." I grabbed the power cord and bent down to reach the outlet. The moment I connected it, everything died. The lights snapped off. The machines went quiet. Even the buzzing neon sign above the snack bar flickered out. Total darkness. Then, silence. I heard Hank curse under his breath and bolt toward the breaker room. Somewhere behind me, I heard Stacy drop something in the kitchen. A plate, maybe. Then footsteps. I stood up slowly, trying to let my eyes adjust. But before they did, before the emergency lights clicked on, I smelled it. Rot. Like spoiled meat. Like something left in a car under the sun. It hit me so fast, I gagged. I covered my nose with my sleeve, but it didn't help. The smell clung to the air, thick and heavy. I staggered out of the arcade and into the rink area, trying not to throw up. Hank was at the breaker box, flipping switches with frantic hands. He glanced at me, his forehead slick with sweat. "Old place," he muttered. "Everything's wired stupid. You sneeze wrong, the power goes out." A few seconds later, the lights hummed back to life. The machines buzzed again. The AC kicked in, and just like that, the smell began to fade. Hank didn't say much. He wiped his face, muttered something about rewiring, and walked straight over to check the thermostat. It was still at 26 degrees. Well, he said, almost to himself, we're fine. He didn't explain the smell, and I didn't ask. It had been almost a week since the blackout. I still remembered that smell, thick, sour, clinging to the back of my throat. Even after washing my clothes twice, I swore I could still catch faint traces of it when I opened my closet. But I told myself it was a fluke. Some old food from the snack bar. Or maybe something died in the walls. That happens, right? That Saturday, Hank had to run errands. Stacy and I were left to manage the rink ourselves. It started off calm, just a few families, some teenagers skating in slow, lazy circles while bubblegum pop played over the old speakers. The ice shimmered under the lights, and for a moment, the place felt almost peaceful. Until a group of kids came up to the front counter, all talking at once. Hey, the new game's busted again. It ate my quarter. Screen stuck. I sighed and headed toward the arcade. Hank had shown me how to reboot the machines, basic stuff. Really. Unplug, wait, restart. Usually did the trick. But as I walked into the arcade, I noticed something weird. The air was hot. Uncomfortably hot. Now, this might not sound like a big deal, but remember, this was the coldest part of the building, right next to the rink. I usually wore a hoodie just to stay warm in here. But now, I felt sweat trickling down my spine. I crouched beside the cabinet and wiped my forehead. What the hell? The arcade cabinet was buzzing, but the screen was frozen, stuck on the title screen, dim and flickering. I gave it a hard reset, hoping it wouldn't blow the fuse again. It didn't, but it still didn't boot up. I unplugged it, counted slowly, then plugged it back in. After a few seconds, the game finally came back online. The screen snapped to life, sound blaring through the speakers. The kids cheered and ran back to their seats. I stood up, wiping my hands on my jeans, still sweating. Something felt off. I made my way to the rink's thermostat, glancing over my shoulder. 29 degrees. Still within range. But the arcade? It was boiling. The air conditioning must have been straining under the heat wave outside. Or maybe that big cabinet was just kicking off too much heat. I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted to cool off. I swung by the snack bar, grabbed a cold soda, and went back to the front desk. It was busier now. Parents lining up for skate rentals. A kid crying because his ice cream fell. Stacy was juggling snacks and slushies behind the counter, and I jumped in to help. Before I knew it, the sun had started to set, and we were closing up. The last of the customers filtered out. The music stopped. The speakers popped softly as they powered down. I flipped the front sign from open to closed and reached for the light switch. Then paused. I hadn't checked the thermostat in hours. Just a quick check, I mumbled to myself. I headed back to the rink. My boots echoed against the linoleum. The silence in the empty rink was heavy, thick, like a curtain that had been dropped behind me. 35 degrees. I winced. Too high. I adjusted the dial, listening as the coolant system kicked on with a low groan. Then I turned toward the front. And stopped. There was someone at the end of the hallway, just past the restrooms. A figure. Perfectly still. Dimly lit by the red glow of the exit sign overhead. My first thought was that a customer had stayed behind. Hey, I called out. We're closed. I've got a lockup. No response. The figure didn't move. You need to use the bathroom before you go? Still nothing. I took a step forward, trying to get a better look. The man slowly turned to face me. He wore a suit. Dark gray. Outdated. Wide lapels. Flared pants. His head hung low, chin almost to his chest, like he was asleep on his feet. Then he looked up, and everything inside me turned to ice. His face. It wasn't right. Not just old. Not just tired. Wrong. His skin looked stretched. Tight in some places, sagging in others. His features seemed rearranged. Like someone had taken a real face and put it back together all wrong. His eyes were cloudy. Pale. But they were locked on mine. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Then it hit me. Not fear. Not panic. Cold. An Arctic chill raced through my veins, sharp and merciless. I hugged my arms to my chest, trying to keep warm. Trying to remember how to move my legs. I blinked. He was gone. Just gone. The hallway was empty. No sound. No footsteps. No door opening. Nothing. I don't even remember how I got out of the building. I just remember running. shoving the door open so hard it slammed into the wall behind me. My heart pounding so loud, it drowned out the crickets chirping outside. When I reached the sidewalk, I looked back. The rink was dark and silent, its neon sign flickering. And I swore, for just a second, I saw movement behind the glass. A silhouette, watching me. The next morning, I called in sick. I couldn't explain exactly what I had seen, because even I didn't understand it. But I knew what I felt. That cold, that deep, impossible cold. It wasn't just fear. It was like something had brushed up against my soul. I spent most of the day under my bedsheets, window cracked just enough to let in a summer breeze, trying to convince myself it was a hallucination. Maybe I was dehydrated. Maybe the heat was messing with me. Maybe anything except what I really believed. By evening, I felt embarrassed enough to go back. I showed up early the next day, hoping to talk to Hank privately before we opened. When I walked in, he was already near the counter, refilling the coffee pot like nothing had happened. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" He turned, looked at me, waited. I hesitated, then blurted it out. "I saw someone. Last night. In the hallway. After closing." Hank didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just listened. So I kept going. I thought it was a customer at first. He was just standing there, not moving. Then he looked at me. And I stopped, my throat tightening. He didn't look alive, Hank. Still nothing. Finally, after a few long seconds, he asked quietly, "What did he look like?" I swallowed. Old suit. Weird face. Pale eyes. Like he was sleepwalking. Hank nodded slowly, like I had just confirmed something he already knew. "Outdated clothes?" he asked. I blinked. "Yeah, I think so." He rubbed the side of his neck and glanced toward the rink. "Did the temperature rise yesterday?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah, it did. I caught it at 35. I turned it back down before I left." Another slow nod. Then Hank said something I'll never forget. "You'll see people like that around here." Just like that. Like he was talking about spiders in the basement. Or birds nesting in the rafters. They're not always clear. Sometimes it's just shadows. Or a voice. But other times. He trailed off. I stared at him. "You knew this place was haunted?" Hank didn't flinch. He just said, "Just keep an eye on the rink. That's all that matters." Then he walked away. Into his office. Closed the door behind him. I stood there in stunned silence, processing what I had just heard. I turned toward the snack counter, hoping for some kind of reaction, confirmation, disbelief, anything. Stacy was already at work, wiping down the glass. She hadn't looked up the entire time I was talking to Hank. But just as I moved behind the counter, she finally glanced at me. Our eyes met for one brief second. And then she looked away again. Like she'd heard every word. Like she'd heard it all before. That day felt longer than any before. Every step I took felt heavier. Every sound made me jump. I checked the thermostat twice as often as necessary, obsessively tracking every degree. I didn't let it rise above 28 for even a second. No way was I letting another one of them appear. But even with the ice cold and the system humming strong, I felt it. The weight in the air. The quiet press of something just beyond the visible. At one point, I went to the supply closet to grab a new roll of paper towels. The lights in the hallway flickered as I walked. Not enough to go completely dark. Just enough to unsettle me. Then, a soft creak from behind me. I turned fast. No one was there. But I swear the air behind me had grown colder. Not the usual Rink chill. This was deeper, denser, like something standing right behind me, breathing ice onto the back of my neck. I ran. Didn't scream. Didn't say anything to Stacy. Just ran. That night, as we were closing, I hovered near the front counter, hesitant to go anywhere alone. The last family had left. The arcade machines were silent. Stacy flipped the lights off one by one. Hank hadn't come out of his office for hours. It was just the two of us. I turned to Stacy. "Can I ask you something?" She paused. I leaned in. "You've seen them too, haven't you?" She didn't answer right away. Then, in a whisper so soft I almost didn't catch it, she said, "Don't let the ice melt." That was it. Nothing more. She grabbed her bag, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. I stood there alone, heart pounding, staring at the now darkened rink. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw movement on the ice. Not a person, not a shadow, but something, gliding, just under the surface. Summer in our town hit its peak. 102 degrees. People were desperate, crowding into stores, restaurants, anywhere with working AC. And that made Glacier Skate one of the most popular spots in town for all the wrong reasons. Kids came in to escape the heat, not to skate. They loitered in the arcade, bought popsicles from Stacy, and camped at the tables just to breathe in the cold air. By noon, we were packed. By 2, the air was struggling. And by 4, everything fell apart. It started with a flicker. The fluorescent lights above the rink stuttered once, then again. The soda machines let out a strange hum. The music cut out, then popped back in with a warped, low-pitched version of Taylor Swift that sent chills down my spine. Not the good kind. I looked over at Hank. He was already moving, out the front door, toward the side of the building. Generator? I asked. He nodded. Keep everyone off the ice, he added. No matter what. You hear me. I did. And it stuck with me. No matter what. A few moments later, the power died completely. The rink went silent. The arcade lights blinked out. The AC stopped. The vending machines went dark. The ice sat still beneath the overhead lamps, dull now, almost gray in the fading daylight. Customers shuffled in confusion. Some groaned. Others headed for the door. It's probably the heat, I told them. It's hitting the whole town. The power grid can't keep up. They believed me. Most people left. But a handful stayed, stubborn parents with kids too cranky to take back out into the sun. I found Stacy and pulled her aside. I don't think we should stay open, I whispered. She didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the rink. There was condensation gathering at the glass. Small, but visible. Sweat beaded at my hairline. The air had gone from cool to humid in minutes. The thermostat still had a battery-powered display. I checked it. 41 degrees. That was the moment I knew we were in trouble. I looked back at the rink and froze. Not figuratively. Literally. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Damp. And there it was again. That smell. Rotting meat. It slammed into me like a wall. Sour. Wet. Ancient. My eyes watered, and I gagged into the crook of my elbow. I turned to Stacy, but she was already gone. Her apron was on the counter, and the door to the staff lot stood open. She left. Didn't even wait. My chest tightened. I looked at the rink one more time, and, God, they were there. Dozens of them. Standing on the ice. Still. Silent. Motionless bodies. Some in suits. Some in uniforms. Some barefoot. Faces frozen in screams or grimaces or hollow, soulless stares. Blood covered some of them. Others looked pale, like wax figures melting in the sun. They watched me. Every single one of them. Their cloudy eyes locked on mine. And somehow, the air grew colder. Even though the power was out. Even though the thermostat still read 41 degrees. Even though I could feel sweat on my neck. The cold was back. But it wasn't from any machine. It came from them. I stumbled backward, my boots slipping on the edge of the rink. I nearly fell, but caught myself. Then I ran. Past the snack bar. Past the broken machines. Toward the hallway that led to the emergency exit. I should have used the front door. But my brain wasn't working. Panic overrode logic. My boots hit the polished floor hard, echoing. I grabbed the handle to the back door, and it didn't budge. It was jammed. Or sealed. Or something worse. That's when I heard the sound. A scraping. Like blades on ice. Behind me. I turned, slowly. At first, nothing. Just empty hallway. Then, a figure emerged around the corner. Not walking. Not skating. Gliding. Effortless. Smooth. One of the dead. A man in a shredded button-down shirt. Blood streaked across his neck. His jaw hung loose, like it had been broken. His hands trailed beside him, fingertips dragging along the wall. He didn't move fast. But he didn't stop. I pounded on the door. Kicked it. Screamed. Then I bolted back toward the front of the rink. The smell grew thicker. I passed the arcade. Shadows flickered behind the glass. One of the cabinets powered on for half a second, then died again. I didn't stop to see which one. By the time I reached the front lobby, my heart felt like it was going to explode. Hank's office door was open. But he was gone. His keys were gone. His truck was gone. He left us. Left me. I ran out into the parking lot, lungs burning. The heat outside hit me like a blast furnace. I didn't care. I kept running. Didn't stop until I reached the edge of the lot, where my sister was supposed to pick me up. Her car wasn't there yet. But I waited anyway. Shaking. Alone. Sweat and cold mixing together on my skin. The last thing I saw when I turned back was a face, pressed against the glass. Not Hank's. Not Stacy's. Just another one of them. Watching me. Waiting. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't even call in. I turned my phone off. I kept the curtains closed. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just sat on the edge of my bed, waiting for the sun to rise again. And when it did, I still felt like I was trapped in the dark. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. The way they stood there on the ice. Like they belonged to it. The way they looked at me. Not with anger. Not with hate. But with longing. Like they were waiting for me to join them. Like I was the one out of place. Eventually, I turned my phone back on. I had 5 missed calls. All from Hank. And 1 voicemail. His voice was low. Calm. Elena, I know what you saw. I need you to come in. We can talk. I didn't call back. Instead, I texted him. What is this place? To my surprise, he answered. Just 1 line. Come by. I'll explain everything. Against my better judgment. I went. The parking lot was nearly empty when I got there. No customers. No kids. Just the faded white lines and Hank's truck out back. The front door was unlocked. The inside smelled like bleach. Strong. Overpowering. He was waiting for me at the counter, holding a thermos of coffee like nothing was wrong. You came, he said, like we were old friends. I didn't sit. I didn't smile. I just asked, what the hell is going on here? He sighed, like he'd been rehearsing this. You ever hear about the old insurance building down the street? He asked. I shook my head. Back in the 80s, he said, it collapsed. Middle of the night. Structural failure. Nearly 60 people inside. Most didn't make it out. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. The morgue couldn't handle the bodies, he continued. It was summer. They needed somewhere cold. Fast. He turned, looking out across the ice. They brought them here. I blinked. What? This rink, he said. Back then it was city-owned. So they used it. Kept the bodies on the ice until they could ID and move them. Days went by. Some families never came. Some corpses were never claimed. I felt a chill rise in my throat. You're saying they stored bodies here? He nodded. And that's what we see? I whispered. The people who died? He looked me dead in the eye. They don't always show themselves. Not unless the temperature rises too high. A pause. That's why I always check the thermostat. Everything suddenly made sense. The obsession with the ice. The way he panicked during the blackout. The strange smells. The cold that had nothing to do with the air conditioner. They're still here, I said quietly. Yes. Why? He looked down. I think part of them never left. The trauma. The panic. Being moved like that. Forgotten. Frozen. I took a step back. You're okay with this? No, he said. But it's not about being okay. It's about keeping them asleep. I left without saying another word. No goodbyes. No apologies. No promises to come back. I didn't want to be part of that place anymore. Not even as a witness. That night, I stayed at my sister's apartment. I told her some of it. Not all. Just enough to explain why I couldn't sleep. We watched bad movies until the morning. I thought it would help. It didn't. Because when I finally drifted off it, I dreamed of the ice. But this time, I wasn't watching from the edge. I was standing in the middle of it. Barefoot. Freezing. The bodies surrounded me close, too close. Their eyes blank. Their mouths open, whispering something I couldn't hear. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I looked down, and I was one of them. Skin pale. Eyes clouded. Frozen to the rink. When I woke up, my legs were stiff. My arms felt heavy. And my sheets were cold. Not room temp cold. Ice cold. I ripped them off and ran to the bathroom. Turned on the light. Looked in the mirror. Just me. But something felt off. Like I hadn't come back fully. Like some part of me was still there. Still standing on the ice. I never went back to glacier skate. A few days later, I saw an article online. Local rink closes for renovations after power grid failure. But I knew better. They weren't renovating. They were trying to cover something up. Maybe the city knew. Maybe they didn't. Either way, the ghosts weren't gone. They were just waiting. Waiting for the ice to warm. Waiting for someone to forget. Waiting for someone like me. So if you ever pass through my town now, and the heat gets unbearable, you might be tempted by the cold glow of the rink down the road. Don't. No matter how hot it gets. Don't step on that ice. Because some things aren't meant to thaw. And some people aren't meant to come back.